Alrighty, hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. The playtest for Alchemortis is now live for Patreon members. Sorry for the complete and utter nonsense this morning. I had a very massive brain fart. I ran the little job that I have to send out the keys to all the Patreon subscribers. And then I was looking at the numbers, I was like, wait, that's sending to far too many people. And I was investigating, I was like, oh no, I need to change this whole thing is wrong. So I went and changed it and I resent it. And then I realized, wait a minute, it was right the first time. I had the idea in my head for some reason that only the supporters were supposed to get the key rather than people who are subscribed to either tier. I don't know where that came from because I've been saying for weeks that you can be a subscriber of either tier, so I don't know. But sorry about that. So the reason you got spammed with emails is because I just had a complete and utter brain fart. But I think it's fixed now. I think it's been made right. So if you are a subscriber of any Patreon tier, you should have a key in your inbox. It's probably in the most recent email you got. That key should work. If it doesn't work, please email me or something, or contact me on Discord, whatever, and I will be sure to fix it as soon as I possibly can. So yeah, I want to make sure, I'm not trying to, I want everyone to get the key that I promised them. And so if you did not get your key that was promised to you, please tell me and I will make it right. Okay? All right. But anyway, that said, for anyone who's not a Patreon subscriber currently, you can get access to the playtest by subscribing at Patreon. Again, subscribing to either tier will get you a Steam key for the playtest. And you should automatically receive a Steam key within minutes of subscribing to Patreon. So you can feel free to do that as well. And again, same deal there. If you subscribe to the Patreon during this early playtest period and you don't get your key, please tell me and I will fix it, but it should be working. I mean, my flow was working. I just had a brain fart and I went in and changed the whole flow and then I had to change it back to the working form. I don't even know. I don't know what happened, but whatever. I will blame it on staying up too late for weeks on end working on this game. But anyway, hello Clickertail, welcome. Hello Ninja Link, good morning to you. Good to see you. Hello, Dan. Thank you for the bug report. I think that's you in Discord, right? We're actually going to be trying to fix that bug right here and right now. Hello, El Gato. Welcome. Script has cast confusion was effective. It was very effective. It was very effective. Alrighty, so we've got these logs that were shared by Dan. This is a crash that's happening here. And thankfully, the logs are actually helpful in this case. Sometimes people share the logs and the logs are there's nothing in them. But we can see from the logs here that the handle artifacts, there is a handle artifacts that is dispatching an event on damage dealt, and it's the cello artifact. So this player, Dan, had the cello artifact, and it was, for some reason, failing. So value cannot be null parameter key. So we're going to try to trace that logic through and see if we can reproduce that. So we have two pieces of information, right? We've got the on damage dealt being called on cello, and it was being called by handle artifacts. So yeah, we're going to just see what we can do about that. So let's just see if we can reproduce that. And let me just look at the Discord again real quick. I'm going to take a look at that screenshot. Crashes and freezes are high priority. Okay, so we got the cello. Okay, so Dan posted a video, so let's go ahead and check. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to try to reproduce this to the best extent possible. We have a good amount of information in here though, so that should help me narrow down the issue. And but yeah, these bug fixes are high priority. The good news is that the crashes and the freezes like that are a little bit more tolerable because I have this save system. So you can usually just close the game and reopen, and you'll just have to redo that combat. But still want to make sure it's as good as possible. So let me just duplicate it exactly. We got the minion crit chance one, and we also have the cello. I'm not going to go so far as to duplicate the items on the boards just yet, but we will see. So generate test map, training dummy, override player board dimensions. It doesn't matter. All right, let's take a look. Hello, Neodoza. Welcome. G. Whittington. Good morning to you. It's me. You're welcome. Good. All right. Hello, Wooyas. Welcome. How dare Dan break your game? Seriously. Hello, Trist. Welcome. Good to see you. All right. Oh, it's not putting the cello in there. Project settings, enable test player artifacts. You know, the other fun thing is that GitHub Actions was down last night, and that's the way that I publish my builds. So it was down for like 2 hours or something, and it was at the end of that night too, and I had a very critical bug fix that I wanted to get in for today. So I had to stay up and wait for that to recover so I could actually run some bug fix builds. This whole playtest launch process has just been a disaster. All right, once per combat, when health drops below 50%, deal 35 damage and confuse enemy items for 1 execution. Okay, so let's make the training dummies have some damage, because I think it's probably related to the cello triggering, if I had to guess. So let's actually pin this. Close others. Okay, so let's open the training dummy. Let's do ability builder. Let's just do a simple 10 damage. And then we will start the combat with the cello. We'll click auto resolve and we'll just see what happens. If nothing happens, then I'm gonna have to try to recreate it more specifically. But what I'm hoping happens is that this just breaks outright. Also, this is detecting, anyway, whatever, don't have to worry about it right now. Okay, there we go, we reproduced the issue. All right, so we've got the issue being reproduced. So this query target provider, get query result. Okay, so let's trace this through. So base artifact. Turn context, track ability, execution. So this is not working in the auto resolve context. Let's just see if it works without clicking auto resolve. Now the thing that's a little bit confusing is that there should be no difference between those things. But let's just go and see what happens. Oh no, it broke there too. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's not the auto resolve. How did that break? Confuse enemy items for 1 execution. All right, so it's probably related to the confuse. Okay, so it's not related to auto resolve. Why did this break all of a sudden? Let's go to the cello. Is triggered equals false. Damage dealt on damage dealt. Query target provider. Oh, execute abilities. Target board is player board is not equal to null. Board manager, get opponent board. Okay, let's just step through this then. Let's take a look. I'm a terrible person, I feel bad. No, this is good. Hello, Junie. Sorry, Junie. I mean, this happened to multiple people, but sorry for the playtest confusion. I feel pretty bad about that. Spamming your inbox with my own stupidity, but everything should be right now. All right. This is handle not initialized. That's not a relevant bug. You hear that bug, you're irrelevant. Okay. Let's take a look. So we've got the artifact context, we've got a list of abilities. All right, so let's step through player board. We have player board. We've got a turn context, we've got an artifact context. Let's just check board manager, get opponent board and make sure that's correct. Debug console. So that is correct. Is full execution true turn executor component? So we've got a new execution context with state. So we'll step over this one. So ability, this should be, oh, this is damage. So I don't think it's having a problem with the damage part. I think it's having a problem, okay. Oh, I see. Get card occupied cells. Okay, all right. We're making progress. Query affected cells for card. Oh, why is that happening? I thought I stopped that. My 4 card is null. Interesting. Did I forget? Let me think about this. So the problem with this base artifact, okay, so I know what the problem is now. This cello artifact, this runs a query target provider. When this does its querying, when this does its querying in board inventory component, well, it does that from the, I don't know, remember, it's execution context with state. Yeah, get query result, query board with final filter. It goes down here. It's got the execution context, base card, query options with. And then it's doing this. This execution context base card is null. So the problem is it's going down into here. This 4 card ends up being null and then it just fails here. Well, shoot. Here's what I can do. So we've got a hash set of source cells. So what I can do, let's do this. This is going to be a little bit messy, but hash set vector2i query source cells is equal to null. Well, let's do this. Let's do execution context.base artifact is not equal to null. In this case, we are going to do query source cells, or we're just going to do vector2i.0. Otherwise, we're going to do null. Then in here, in here we will do query source cells. We'll just do that. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, we're going to skip, if we supply just a list of source cells for the query, we're going to skip this for card bit. And we're just going to assign the source cells to vector2i.0, so the top left cell, if we have an artifact defined. That should hopefully fix it. Don't feel bad, most of my emails are far less interesting. Okay, good. So hopefully that fixes that. Okay. So I believe those did confusion. Yeah, and it didn't break anymore. Okay. I'm pretty sure that works. Let me just try one more thing here. I'm going to change the training dummy turn cooldown a little bit. Let's do 40 instead. I just want to make sure that that confuse is landing on them properly. Okay. And they did, oh, well, they did the confuse immediately. But confuse enemy items for one execution. So I believe I saw 10 damage being done there. Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of hard to track, but... Actually, that's correct. You dealt 49 damage. Yeah, that's correct. So let's just make sure that it doesn't execute again. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. That fixes the issue right now, but there's another thing that's bugging me that I want to take care of. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this as a fix right now, because that is a very obvious crash, and it is fixed now. And it's a very minimal change. I mean, this is just one change since that build. So fix crash on cello trigger. So we're going to push that. And then what I'm going to do is I'll kick off a build while we're on the stream here. I will have to go over to Steam and promote that build, but we'll fix that right now. So I've got this new tool, node tool tagger. This will automatically increment the version for me. So v0.19.11 is the next one. Select that. Here's all the tags that are going to be pushed. Say yes. It's going to go and push all those tags. It has to push them one at a time, because if you push 4 at once, it doesn't trigger 4 actions. So I need to do one push at a time in order to trigger all the GitHub runners for the automated build. But now we got a build going in the cloud, in the almighty cloud. If it's working today. Yeah, so I can show you guys this. So here's a little build window. So we've got all different versions of the game being built. So those are each of the 4 tags that were pushed. This one is just like the main branch game, which none of you have access to, but this is the version that people would actually buy on Steam. This is a branch for that version. That's for me and the publisher to use so we can like just cheat and get items and whatnot when we need it. The demo build, this is the one that all of you playtesters currently have access to. But this will also become eventually the build that will be available as the demo build from the store page. And then this test version, this is the playtest app. So there's 3 different apps here. This tag and this tag are going to the main app. It's just that Cheats is a different branch. And then this is going to the demo app, and this is going to the playtest app. So in the Steam backend, your playtest and your demo are separate like applications on Steam that are basically children of your main app. But for all intents and purposes, like they are deployed to as if they are a standalone app. So they have different IDs and everything. They have a different, you can put different builds up. They have a different build history, all that kind of stuff, right? So all those things are building in parallel, and all this is doing is this is basically just pulling the repository. It's setting up the correct .NET version. It builds .NET before it does any Godot stuff, because I found that there could be problems with like exported values. If you try to run an export before the game has been built, sometimes that like breaks. So I make sure to build the game before I even try any Godot exporting. It also sets the project version to whatever the tag version was. So that way, when you're on the main menu, it will show you like what version you're on. And then in here, this is the Firebelly Godot export action. This is the action that I created to export Godot games. Basically, all it does is it downloads the configured Godot stable or Godot release that you have configured, as well as the export templates that you have configured. It downloads those, it unzips those to a working directory. It will then do an import of your project. So it runs Godot headless, runs an import, closes Godot, and then it goes into the export. So you can see that it's skipping a bunch of these options. So based on which flow is running, that will determine which one of the, or which set of these things gets exported. So in this case, we're exporting just the demo ones. So Alchemortis demo Windows, demo Linux, demo Mac. And you can see up here, oh gosh, we're going way down. We're going way down. All right, we're going on a ride. But you can see that this is now going to, oh, I'm on the playtest one. So it's building the playtest export presets. So this particular workflow is building these 3 right here. And the only functional difference between this and everything else is this just has the playtest feature tag on it. That's it. And actually, my playtest notice may not be being shown. Which is a little bit of a bug, but that's all right. It's not a big deal. And so yeah, so that's how it goes. I don't know, I'm pretty sure there's not going to be any sensitive information, but basically after it's done exporting those, it copies those builds into a different workspace folder, and then I run the deploy to Steam action, and that's configured to send those build artifacts to Steam. And that's basically it. So that's my workflow. But this usually takes just over 7 minutes for each one to run. So all of these here will take 7 minutes. So it's about 7 minutes total for all 4 of the versions to build and upload to Steam. But then I need to go into the Steam backend manually and like promote those builds to the production branch. So in Steam's backend, you have branches like you have on version control. So you can assign different build versions to different branches if you want. So in the Steam backend, I basically just have a staging branch. That's where everything ends up on by default. So these automatically deploy to the staging branch, but then I have to manually promote that build to the production branch, which is called default in Steam. So which is good, right? Like I don't want these builds to be automatically promoted to production. I want to have an opportunity, if I want to take that opportunity, to test the staging branch first through my Steam client before I send that build to everyone, right? But yeah, this is very nice to do. It only takes 7 minutes, and because it's, you know, very what is the word I'm thinking about? It's very predictable, right? It's like there's no room for human error. This is going to run the exact same every single time. I don't have to worry about like me uploading a wrong artifact or anything. It's like it's all automated, so I don't need to worry about it. It takes 7 minutes, so I can go and do something else while it's building. I don't need to like take up my computer for it. So anyway, that's how it works. Hello, Emerson. Welcome back. Are you working in poly repo, or does the one repo building for different targets? It's one repo building for different targets, basically. Like I said, the only difference right now is that the features, the feature tags are the only things changing. So it's kind of wasteful, but the demo build, I will be investigating like stripping content from the PCK file for the demo specifically. So we'll see how that goes. That's going to probably be a nightmare. Something going on up. My game got stuck on Combat 2. I'm on Linux Bazite. Or do you have the cello artifact? Emerson? Hello, Neozoid. Do you use C# compiler directives like Playtest to compile different versions? I do not, no. No, I don't. I just rely on the feature tags. I think what I'll do if I want to like change what actually compiles is I'll actually just strip things from the PCK. But I'm also not that concerned about it. I think so, yes. Okay. The cello is the major problem. So sorry for that, but as soon as this is done building, that's going to fix the cello thing, and then I will I'll promote that to Steam, and then once that's promoted to Steam, you should be able to just verify integrity of game files in your Steam library. That should force a re-download, and then so I guess we'll just wait because it's almost done. These will be finishing in just a couple seconds here. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you the Steam backend, but I will just do it on my other monitor, and then I will. I will tell you when you can go ahead and re-verify. So that one's done. So the default branch is done. Oops. These ones should be finishing. Oh, that's 8 minutes now. Anyway. So default. Okay. Okay, so the demo build is done. Oh wait, did I already do the demo build? Let's see. Okay. The fix for the cello has been deployed to demo. So the version that you playtesters are on is the demo version. So now you can go to your Steam library, go to the right click on the game in your library, click verify integrity of game files. That should reacquire the new files. And then when you launch the game, you should see V0, you should see this, V0.19.11.demo in the bottom left. If you have that, then you have the version where the cello is fixed. And yeah, sorry about that. This is why we do playtests. I could have sworn that was working though. I don't know why it broke suddenly, but my gameplay systems are getting very complex, so these kinds of errors are happening more frequently. But it's okay, we'll just deal with the spaghettification. I wonder why these are taking long to finish. I mean, I do see... Well, let's just change this one. It's not really that important for me to wait for these ones to finish, but I want to make sure I promote all the different app versions. Oh, what is happening here? Why are these taking so long? Interesting. Anyway, Good morning on congrats on the final playtest. Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that. I don't need the log files. Dan actually encountered that issue before you, but if you're still experiencing a crash, then yes, please send the log files, but this should fix it. You're welcome, Dan. You're welcome. Please, yeah, please drop any critical issues in the Discord. What is happening here? Sorry, let me just take a look at this. Oh, the Steam deploy is taking forever for some reason. Okay, it seems to be working now. We'll just give these a couple more seconds. Hello, Naxot. Why did you decide to make a build for Linux? I mean, it makes sense for 3D games, but Wine works pretty good with 2D games and is one build less for taking care of. Well, I mean, I think it's better generally to build for native if you can, without relying on Wine or Proton or anything. And it really is not that much extra configuration. Like, I just set up these export presets once, and then my automated build pipeline just works. So it's like, I might as well support, you know, the native executable rather than relying on whatever weirdness might come up from Proton or Wine or whatever. It's really not that much effort, right? Hello, Hamid Saidnia. I hope I said that correctly. Welcome. Good to see you. I would like to have a build for it. Yeah, it's supported. Mac OS, Linux, all the desktop platforms are supported. So you should be able to play on your favorite OS. Love the combat summary. The alchemy position feels great too. Awesome. Good to hear. Okay, these are almost done. I don't think I need to do anything for cheats. Yeah, I don't need to do anything for that. So we're just waiting for the playtest build to finish. Anyway, so there's one other thing where I'm a little bit worried about it, which is that this is creating an execution context should end lifecycle func. So let me go to my turn manager. Should end, where is that turn executor component? Should end lifecycle. Is there a should end lifecycle func? Should end lifecycle func. So this creates an execution context from a run context. Create execution context from run context. Notify combat started. Run execution. This is being called by, okay. Oh, I can actually do this. Should end lifecycle func. So we have the turn executor, so I might be able to do this actually. Let's make this public. And then in the artifact context, or base artifact here, should end lifecycle func is equal to artifact context dot turn executor dot should end. Let's do this. Okay. So now I want to probably just mirror what the base card is doing. Let's see, should end life cycle. Do I have that even happening in here? Should executability. Oh, okay. Should executability. So this is happening at the composed ability level. I wonder why I'm not just breaking out of, oh, because this is individually checking, right? Okay. So in this case, what I can do is I can actually just do if execution context dot should end lifecycle func. We're just going to break out of this loop. Okay. So basically, what I want to do here. So when I'm executing a string of abilities, so every ability that you see in the game tooltip is actually a combination of a bunch of little tiny modular abilities. So you might read a description and there might actually be like 6 or 7 or 8 individual abilities that all execute in sequence to make whatever the ability says it's going to do happen, right? But the problem is, what happens if, for example, you have a string of 8 abilities? The 4th ability is a damage ability that kills the enemy, right? I probably don't want to execute the remaining 4 abilities, and I certainly don't want to execute any other abilities that the card is going to execute, generally speaking, right? And so this should end lifecycle func is basically just a way of checking, like, are we actually in a situation where someone has died and the combat needs to end? Because as soon as anyone's health hits 0, it just needs to like hard stop right there. And so previously the artifacts did not support being able to do that. They would just go ahead and execute all their abilities regardless of what was happening. But now I've put that in here. So when I enter an ability, I'm going to check, are we ending the life cycle? If so, we're just going to break out of that list, break out of that loop. Otherwise, we're going to execute the ability, and then assuming there's another ability, it will check on the next execution, the next iteration, if we should end. So I could have a damage ability and then some other ability. If that first damage ability ends up killing the enemy or killing the player, then the second ability should not execute. Now, the thing that I need to look at, though, is on combat started. Yeah, so this is going to execute abilities. So on combat started. Let me look at my turn manager. So we've got on damage dealt. Subscribe artifact events damage dealt. Board combat component. Board effect manager on damage dealt. Oh, I probably need to do the same thing for the board effect manager. On damage dealt. Find all implementations. Oh, I don't have any board effects that do stuff on damage dealt. Do I have anything that does? Is that right? I wonder if I should just strip those out. Anyway, let me check my Steam builds here. Okay, here we go. Okay, all the Steam builds have been updated, so I can close this. Yeah, I don't know. That can go away. shoot, I don't think this one is correct either. Oh, get affected cards. Oh, no, it should work, yeah. Okay. So let's just do base board effect. I'm going to get rid of on turn taken, on damage dealt. I think I can get rid of on combat started as well. We don't care about that. What else? I don't think we care about that. And then board combat component. We don't care about this either. Okay, let's make sure I didn't break anything. I use Windows. It disgusts me that Mac and Linux users breathe the same air that I do. Oh, wow. Hello, slap you silly dog. Sinus Kisty, welcome. Thank you for the Prime subscription. That's very generous. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Snupbill, for the IDR 10,000 with the message yummers. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Rider Mine, welcome. Good to see you. Okay. So let me test this too. Let me just make sure that this works. So what I'm going to do here is let me stage these changes, and then I'm going to make the cello. I'm going to make this just do an absurd amount of damage. Okay. So what I should see is as soon as I take damage to put my health at 50% or under, the enemy should die, and there should be no confusion applied either because the enemy will be dead. So let's see. You applied 0 status. I don't think this combat summary shows the debuffs applied, but it's not breaking, so that's good. Discard that. Your streams maybe give Godot another fair chance after I spent years making games for Game Jams with Unity, and I'm slowly really starting to understand and like the engine. Thanks. Awesome. Yeah, glad to hear that. There's a bug. Controller is being detected at startup, even with no controller connected. Anyone been playing the playtest with controller yet? Okay. Implement should end life cycle func for artifact event, artifact ability executions. I guess we'll just call that content. Oops. Man. Every day I feel more and more like a boomer. Here we go. Okay. Support checking life cycle and during artifact ability executions. Oh, I was going to check the cello one more time, I think, with the normal stuff. Yeah, let's see. When the playtest comes out for the plebeians like me, I will use controller. Awesome, thank you. By the way, here's the new tree. Here's the new enemy item, the hollow wood. It projects immune to paralysis to items below. It heals 2 per item with armor ability, applies 8 holy to self, and applies 12 armor. And it's got a relatively low cooldown as well, so. I like how this one turned out, though. I definitely want to do more items that are like little scenes rather than like specifically, you know, like specifically items per se. Because I think there's a lot of room, especially for enemy cards, to do like little scenes. So like I have a cathedral, right? I've got like the Hollowwood, I've got a pond. So I think doing like landscapes and stuff can definitely be not only like a thematic fit for the enemy faction, but also just, yeah, opens up the potential. Well, let's see. Okay. Let me just, I just want to pay attention to that again. We should see 5 damage dealt twice when the cello activates. I need to improve those damage numbers. But holding off playing until I get some actual work done today. I'll be sure to investigate the controller support. Thank you. It took 35. Oh yeah, 35 damage. Confuse enemy items for 1 execution. Is that working correctly? I wish I could check. Let's see. Entire board. Confuse applicator. Initial base magnitude. Let me just, I'm a little bit paranoid now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go into here and I'm gonna place a breakpoint and we're gonna see if that is indeed applying to multiple targets. So we'll close that one, we'll go here. And just to be extra sure, I'm not even gonna put anything on my board. All right, so buff applicator, card to defer, but okay, targets, we've got 0. Oh, I guess it could be looking at the same item. Is there a way to tell? Ref is 580, and this one, ref is, okay. Let's just step through this. Actually, let's just do this. So buffs applied should be 2. Okay, so it is working. Okay, so what is its health? 9959. So if we add 35 to that, that's 9994. Yeah, it's not working. It's not triggering both. Why is that happening? Right, because it does 35 damage. Oh, let me bring out a calculator. 9994. Yeah, it's only dealing the 5 damage once. Why is that happening? This should be 9954 if it's doing, because it needs to be doing 45 damage total. But it doesn't appear to be doing that. Has execution disabling debuff, buff source abilities. I think I know what the problem is. I think I know what the problem is. Let me think about this. So I think what's happening, and this is another problem. So I think what's happening is this is dealing, the training dummy is dealing its damage. That is triggering the cello, which is then applying the confused debuff. But the problem is the training dummy is not aware So when the training dummy executes, it grabs all the composed abilities that it's supposed to execute, and then it iterates over all of those. But the problem is the cello is adding then a debuff to it in response to its execution, but because it started its execution without that debuff, it's not aware that that's an ability that it has to execute as well. So it ends up just skipping it. But those buffs get ticked and it falls off. The reason it's doing it once, though, is because then when it goes to the next training dummy, that training dummy has already been confused in response to the first training dummy's damage application. So the big problem in here is that it's not picking up on... Okay, so... yeah, it's just not picking up on the fact that it's being confused in response to dealing damage. I think the easy way to fix this is, instead of trying to make that work, I think the easy way to fix this is just to make the cello do deferred, a deferred application of confuse. And what that does essentially is that says, don't apply. Well, maybe deferred buffs to apply. Oh, that's not going to work either. Oh, no, that's fun. Buff list. So this is not going to work either. Fudge. Is there a better way to do this? I may have to think about this some more. Graveyard could be a player scene card. Yeah, that could work. Fascinated by the debug process. Seeing all the info during a breakpoint is like looking into a matrix with a project this big. Yeah, it can be a little bit overwhelming, especially if you don't know what you're looking for. But hello, Artem. Tried a little bit playing with the controller, sending some thoughts in the Discord. Sounds good. That means that Emerson doesn't like it. It's really cool how you can track so much across different files. I feel like I would get confused. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, like, it's not... The file count is not the problem. It's mostly about, like, where are the common points of contact, right? Because if you've got 100 files, but they're all flowing through one system, right? Like, they're all leveraging one single pipeline, then it becomes a lot easier to track, right? Because, like, for example, I know that this buff applicator... when I call execute, like this is going to go through this pipeline and it's going to, like, this is the common code that's going to be called anytime an artifact applies abilities, right? And for cards, like this is the singular loop through which all abilities flow, right? So no ability is executed anywhere else except through this block. So if there's a problem with an ability execution, it's going to be in here somewhere. Now, the thing that's kind of unfortunate is that ideally, this would also be able to run artifact abilities, but it lives on the card instead, so that's a little bit of a problem. But yeah, I really don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do about this. Track ability execution. So cello. I basically need a way of telling... So the buff applicator is going to execute as part of an artifact flow. It's adding the ability to the buff container. It's adding the ability to the buff container and then... what? So the problem is, if I look at my confused debuff, get composed abilities. This is adding this self damage. So this is being fetched in the base card, on card buff added. This is marking abilities as dirty. So buff source composed abilities. So the big problem, is like this is just when this starts, this already has up front a list. Here's all the abilities I'm going to execute. And so if an ability gets added to it as a response to, like, let's say damage, like in the cello's case, this essentially is this is setting the list of abilities that it needs to iterate on at this point, right? It's like it's grabbing the composed abilities it's going to iterate, and that's it, right? This composed abilities list is not being updated in response to that confused debuff being added. So when this block runs that damage, so that would be happening. Where is that happening? Should execute ability. Okay, damage handler. Whatever else. Oh, here. it's calling execute. So this would be the damage ability. It's going to execute. But what happens is if we look at the damage ability, this is the execute method for the damage. This is calling damage here on the board combat component. That's doing all this logic here to apply the damage, right? But then it's calling this artifact manager dispatch damage dealt. That is going to the cello, right, on damage dealt. The cello is doing a bunch of checks to make sure that it's like, you know, the health, whatever. And then it's saying, okay, if all those checks pass, so if we're below 50% health and we haven't triggered, and I think that's it. Yeah. So if those two conditions pass, then we want to execute this buff applicator confuse debuff. So that's executing immediately, which is going to then apply this execution in here. So essentially what's happening is that this confuse debuff is being added in here to the training dummy, right? But that's all happening, if I look at my base card, wherever it went, here it is. That's all happening right here as part of this like call stack. So all that stuff that I just described is happening basically as a response to this. And so that's adding a new ability, because the way the confuse debuff is implemented is that it adds an ability to that card that basically just does self damage. But the problem again is that we're deciding which abilities we're going to iterate over up front in this loop. So when an ability gets added to the ability list in this step here, that's never going to be picked up by the loop. I don't know how I'm going to fix that. I really don't know what I'm going to do here. So there's a couple, there's a couple of options, right? One thing I can do is I could somehow determine if this ability executed at all and only tick the execution debuff if it did end up executing. I wonder if that would be the way to do it, actually. Let me think about this. No, I think the proper fix would be to detect any new debuffs that have been added during the execution and then make sure to run those as well. Fudge. Well, what I can do is I could say... Let me think about this. Buff container... Where am I actually getting... Get composed abilities. Oops. Card buff. Buff sourced composed abilities. So it's adding to this buff sourced composed abilities. And marking the abilities as dirty. Rebuild composed ability cache. So it's adding it to the ability cache. Okay. The problem is, how do I do this without inadvertently running any abilities that have already run? I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about this one. May have to just, yeah, think about that more later. Bug. Let's do this. Cello, confused does not apply to the item that triggered the artifact because the confused debuff is a new ability that is not captured by the ability loop. That's, I mean, it's a relatively minor issue. It's not game breaking by any means, but I'll have to fix that. I don't know what I'm going to do about that though. Anyway, commit that. Goodness gracious. Hello, Tony Choppa, welcome back. I just redeemed my key, but I don't see the Alchemortis playtest game, instead it looks like I got the Alchemortis demo. Is that correct? Yes, that's correct. The reason it's correct is because me and the publisher decided... Oh, here we go. Landscaper. This is a great launch day. It's a good thing I'm not fixing that bug anymore. Ugh. Anyway, the reason why it's the demo app instead of the playtest app is because me and the publisher decided to not reset the playtest so that everyone who has signed up for the playtest just gets it back in their library automatically. But of course, if I can't reset the playtest, then that means that I can't offer Patreon exclusive, period, right? So instead, I set up the demo app and I'm giving all the Patreon members access to the demo app while the playtest is technically off, right? So that's how I'm allowing the Patreon members to get exclusive access. I like it, just some quality of life things, or it can be a me problem too skill issue. I mean, I think the controller does have some weird UX problems. So that's why, yeah, that's why I wanted to do another playtest. New week, new playtests, yes indeed. Hello, Nerd Chomp, welcome. I think I saw the current playtest for Patreon subs. Will there be another public one? Yes. Yes, on the 27th is when the public playtest is going to go live. So a week from today. So you don't need to be a Patreon member. Okay, I'm going to do some other things, some other lightweight things. I need to like really dive into that code and figure out how to fix that. But I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break first. And when I come back, we've got some other quality of life things to do here that were suggested already in the Discord. So we might as well just do that. I'm going to try to do as much like content and quality of life updates to this Patreon early access period. So I'm not going to like feature freeze the playtest yet. I want to spend this week continuing to add stuff to the playtest, and then I'll probably freeze it when the public playtest starts on Monday. So all the stuff that I'm working on stream for this week will very likely actually end up going into the playtest version. So that means that all the exciting new stuff that we do this week will be available for you to try as well. But anyway, I'll be right back in 3 minutes and we will continue on. Okay, I'm back. Kind of. 1 second. Oh, Nerd Chomp, you make videos? I guess I wasn't aware of your channel. I'm gonna have to check it out. Let's see. Actually, I'm gonna look at it right now. I'm gonna use all of your time to look at Nerd Chomp's channel. Oh yeah, I saw this video in my recommended. I meant to watch it, but I didn't. I'm gonna watch that after stream. I saw one of your videos in my recommended. Which one was it? Anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely watch that. Hello, Wani Game Dev. Welcome. Good to see you. Alrighty then, let's do some more easier things. We don't need this anymore. All right, some quality of life changes. Well, I do want to fix this controller bug, actually. But let's do make escape open settings on main menu. I have a bunch of videos coming out this week. Awesome. So let's do this. Project settings, skip menu. Kind of funny how the playtest was only out for like an hour and 2 people already had the cello bug. I mean, I guess it was a bug that would happen every time, but still. Okay, so escape. We want to make escape on this menu bring up settings. How are we going to do that? Let's see. I think I can just do this. Main menu. I think I can just add an escapable component here. Escapable component. Escapable component. Yes. I think that's it, actually. Well, it's not it. I gotta wire it up, but escapable component, escapable component. Escapable component dot escaped plus equals on escaped. And then private void on escaped. Let's see, on settings. On settings clicked. I'm just gonna put, so this is like, I mean, you could make an argument about whether this is good or not, but oh, the other one I've done it. Let's see. Let's put this one up here too. I don't really like to put logic in the handlers, really. In the signal handlers. I mean, I guess I'm doing that quite frequently, but now that I have 2 places where I've got signal handlers that are going to do the same thing, pull that out to a method. And now we get the joy of seeing if that's going to work if I like layer on top other menus and whatnot. I think it should, but all right, look at that. Beautiful. And I press escape here. That works. Excellent. Okay, so that works. So the way that my escapable component works, it's kind of interesting. So first of all, the reason why I'm using an escapable component, this can be read-only. The reason why I'm using an escapable component is, number one, it just gives me an easy way to listen for when my back or escape action has been hit, right? So, for example, I actually am checking 3 inputs to detect if like a back action was pressed, right? We've got the escape key for the keyboard. We've got the B button for the controller, but we've also got the menu button for the controller. So those 3 buttons, 2 of which are on controller and 1 of which is on keyboard, all trigger an escape operation, right? But the other nice thing about doing an escapable component is that I'm actually doing like a depth first ordering of the escapable components in the tree. So there's a natural priority order in terms of which one handles the escape. So an escapable component that is deeper in the tree is going to be the one that handles the escape input. So I could have 5 different escapable components in the tree, and it's just going to take whichever one is the deepest. It's not technically the deepest, it's reverse depth first. So it's the same strategy that Godot uses for the input propagation. So an escapable component inside of the card tooltip here, this one would take priority over this one. But let's say that I had an escapable component there and then I had another one here. This one would take precedence over this one, and this one would take precedence over that one. So it's looking at like, it's going bottom up, but then it's going depth first, right? So this one is priority 1, this is priority 2, and this is priority 3. And the reason why that works really nicely is because whenever I spawn like or instantiate a menu like the settings menu, it's almost always going to be a child of that scene. And then it's going to have, if I turn on editable children, it has its own escapable component in there, right? So you can see that this one naturally takes precedence over that one. And this is being drawn on top of everything as well. So it's like, now this is being drawn on top of everything because it has a canvas layer. But if I wasn't using a canvas layer, the draw order is based on like what is at the bottom of the tree as well. So I'm using that reverse depth first search for priority in quite a few places in the code base, actually, because then I can just rely on the tree order to determine the priority of these things. So the escapable component is nice for those two reasons. It handles all of the back actions that I have in the game, but it also just works naturally with like the tree order to determine priority handling. And so when I connect to the escaped signal of the escapable component, I am guaranteed that whenever that signal is emitted, that is a valid escape action that I actually do need to handle, right? So whatever scene is listening for that escape signal doesn't have to worry about the logic at all about whether it should handle the escape or not. It's just automatically going to handle the escape because it's a valid escape event. So if I press start on the controller, that also works. If I press back on the controller. So the only weird thing is that pressing back on this screen brings up the settings, but I don't think that's a huge deal. You know, I could add like a little export flag here that says don't accept back or whatever, you know, something like that. Okay, so that's number one. And then we want to go to the character select. Oops. And we want to add an escapable component here. Escapable component, we want to listen for this one as well. So I'll get this all set up. Escapable component dot clicked or dot escaped plus equals on escaped. Shove this at the bottom of my class, private void on escaped. And we're just basically going to copy whatever on back to menu clicked. So let's just do that. We'll put this in a separate method, private void back to menu. Slap that in there. The other thing I'm going to want to do though is okay, I'm going to want to add a little bit of a Boolean flag here. So I can't accept multiple inputs is going back to menu. Oops. So we'll go down here. Is going back to menu equals true. If is going back to menu, we're just going to return. So we're not going to accept multiple inputs here. So back to menu. All right. Silksong doesn't recognize my controller. Alchemortis does. That means you're better than Team Cherry. Excellent. Hey, thank you, Nokia, for the raid. Appreciate that. How you doing? Welcome to the stream. Thank you, thank you. Hello, Voidwing Dev. In the spirit of the playtest, could we see you play a run today? I find it really interesting to watch devs play their own games. Maybe. I do have like a lot of like quality of life things that I want to address. Plus, I really want to fix that cello bug. But maybe I'll do a stream in the afternoon where that will be mostly focused on playtesting. So anyway, if I hit menu, that goes back, start, click back. Okay, so that's working. Let's try mashing the buttons. Okay, mashing the buttons doesn't break anything. Let me try the escape on the keyboard. Okay, perfect. Excellent. All right, so that works. Make escape work on menu and character select. So we can get rid of that. That's done. Okay. Isn't it better to prompt a pop-up to close the game when pressing escape? I mean, maybe. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, escape doesn't close the game. You actually have to click the quit button to close the game. The escape just brings up the settings menu. But, you know, you close Alchemortis, you go, oops, you know, go to your library. Well, go to your library, update. I mean, it takes, just a couple seconds to get back in the game. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's not like this game has like a 5-minute startup time or anything. Why does it always say 1? Do I not exist? Twitch, I'm assuming it might be broken. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you? Have you encountered anything programming-wise in C# that would not have been an issue if using GDScript, or if there are things you use a lot in C# that are not implemented in GDScript? No, there isn't anything that like broke because I was using C#, but there's lots of things in C# that are not implemented in GDScript. If you're talking about the Godot API, no, the Godot API is one-to-one as far as I'm aware. So everything that you can do in GDScript with respect to interacting with the Godot API is available in C#. But there are C# only features that don't have Godot or GDScript equivalents, right? Like interfaces, for example. I think C#'s pattern matching, if you're doing like switch statements, is a lot more sophisticated than GDScript's. Of course, you have LINQ, you've got abstract classes, interfaces, you have code generation, you've got source generators that you can use, which I'm using quite heavily, and which, the Godot .NET version uses quite heavily as well. So those kinds of things are really nice. And you've got different data structures too. Like you can use queues, you can use stacks, all these different data structures available to you as well. So yeah, there's quite a lot that's C# specific that doesn't have a GDScript analog. Making games is so cool, but I don't know any coding. Well, there you go. Bool flag time. Yeah, you can learn coding. It's just a skill. There's nothing magic about it. Cool. Okay. Let's see why my controller is being detected at startup even with no controller connected. So, do you see this little USB here? That is me unplugging my controller. So it's not plugged in. Controller is not plugged in. And if I start the game and I don't input any mouse events at all, see, it's focusing like it's got a controller active, which is just not correct. So why is that happening? Let's figure that out. Enter tree. Detect initial controller. If get connected joypads.count. See, I don't know why this is. It may be thinking that some of my USB devices are joypads. Really? What happens if I plug in my controller and then run that again? So I've got my controller plugged in. Oops, I removed the breakpoint on accident. So I plugged in my controller. Does this return 2 now? Oops. 2. Okay, so it's definitely recognizing something. Oh, you know what? I bet you I have a Stream Deck, which is like that little Elgato device that just like has a bunch of buttons on it. I wonder if the Stream Deck is being recognized as a gamepad. It might just be a My Machine issue, but I'm gonna actually try that. I'm gonna unplug my Stream Deck. Actually, maybe I won't do that. I don't know. I don't remember which cable is the Stream Deck one, and I don't want to break anything. Okay. Well, I guess I could just okay, hold on. I'll trace it. These damn cables. All right, YOLO, here we go. Ooh, that was the right one. That was the right one. Okay. Let's see if that was indeed the issue. So I'm going to unplug my controller as well. Let's see. Can't wait to get home and join the playtest. Excellent. All right, let's see what happens. Get connected joypads.count. What the heck? It still thinks something is a joypad. Are you for real? Interesting. I wonder, okay, so obviously that wasn't the issue, so I'm going to plug that back in. Obviously that wasn't the issue. Well, let's just take a look at the input documentation then and see if there's a more reliable way to detect if like an actual gamepad is connected. So let's look at the input singleton here. Let's see. Get connected joypads. Get joy GUID. Get joy info, raw name. Oh, interesting. So let's just do that then. Let's get the joy info. So let's do device IDs containing all device IDs. Okay. For each var device ID in input.get connected joypads. We're going to do gd.print input.get joy info device ID. And we'll just leave the rest of it the way it is. So we'll run this now, and we're going to see what it says in the output. It's recognizing my keyboard as a joypad. I guess, this might just be a me problem. So my keyboard is weird because it's a Keychron with the Hall effect switches, which are magnetic switches, which allow you to actually set up analog inputs on your keyboard because it can measure the strength of the key press. And that was one of the advertised features of it. So like, you know, if you're playing like let's say a first person shooter, you can configure the keyboard so that very light presses move you slower than very heavy presses. And I wonder if that just makes the keyboard recognized as a gamepad. So this may just be a me problem, although anyone with a keyboard is going to have this problem. I don't know. Maybe this is not worth thinking about. Maybe it's not worth thinking about. I think the happy path case is most people are either going to have a controller or not. And, you know, the only downside of this issue is that I just get the controller focus for some reason, or I know the reason when I start the game, but then as soon as I use the mouse, it goes back to normal. So maybe that's not really an issue worth fixing. I wonder, though, if there is... like, is there a way to actually detect, like, if... Godot uses the SDL2 game controller database. I wonder if there's a way to, like, actually determine if it's a real gamepad or not. Maybe not. I don't know. The only thing I can think of is, like... yeah, this is just going to be a nightmare no matter what I do, because I could get like the name of the Joy device, which is probably just this string here. But then I'd have to like come up with like a list of things that should not be considered controllers, and that would just be a mess. So I wonder if it's not even worth fixing. I'm just going to say no, it's not worth fixing. No fix. Keychron K2HE is being considered a gamepad. Probably not a common case, and the bug doesn't affect mouse keyboard playability. Okay, Fancy streamer thing. I think it's the monitor. Try turning that off. Yeah. What does the get connected joypads return? Can you check the device names? Yeah, I can check the device names. The problem is like, how many devices are there, right? Don't you have another keyboard to test? I mean, I do, but I don't think it's really worth lugging it over here. Because then I gotta find, I mean, all right, I'll get one. One second. Oops. I'm destroying everything. Very well. Okay. This keyboard is not a magnetic switch keyboard. It has... I think it has glorious panda switches on it, if I remember correctly. I think that's what they're called. Okay, unplug this keyboard. Okay, it's working. All right, should I put that back? Let's just put that back. Okay, let's try it. Not an issue for me. Your keyboard is just problematic. Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, this keyboard is not triggering that. So I guess that's just a function. I guess the Keychron magnetic switch keyboards are registered as gamepads, which makes sense, right? Because I think, I mean, this is just an educated guess, but my guess is that if you wanted to support sending analog input, like on a 0 to 1 like float, you'd probably have to implement it as a gamepad, right? To get compatibility. Like, I don't know if, like, aside from having like specific magnetic switch keyboard device drivers, they're probably just hooking into like whatever gamepad stuff exists in the operating system, or I don't know. I don't know anything about hardware, but that's just my educated guess. Okay. So good. I'm glad I tracked that down, though. It's good to know why that was happening. My PC isn't great, and I'm worried Unity might be too heavy for it, both to run and learn on. In practice, is Godot actually lighter? Yes. Yeah, for sure. Godot is much lighter. I mean, there are people making Godot projects on their Android phones. So if your computer, laptop, whatever is as powerful as an Android phone, you should be fine. Your point about C# makes a lot of sense. It's both more mature and general purpose. Yeah, I think so. Would you say GDScript not having all those language features makes it not as good for bigger indie commercial games? You know, I think it really depends, right? Because like I come from a software development background, and so I'm used to having like all of these language features for structuring systems, right? And GDScript being relatively simple in that regard doesn't mesh well with me, because I always find myself desiring these more sophisticated features so I can design my systems in better ways. But that's not going to be everyone's experience, right? There are going to be people who find GDScript more compelling precisely because it's simpler. Maybe they don't have a programming background, or maybe they don't enjoy programming to the same degree that I do. Like, they just want to get something to work. They don't care about like designing a good system that's like really understandable and beautiful. They just want to make their game, right? So I think it's like, I don't know if I would say like objectively C# is better than GDScript. I think it depends on like what your goals and what your motivations are for writing the code in the first place. And if you're like a more if you're a more artsy oriented person and coding is just a means to an end, then a simpler, less verbose language with less sophisticated features may actually be more appealing for you than something like C#, right? So yeah, I mean, that's what I would say about that. You're welcome, Igor. GDScript is more like in the beginning journey of its development. It's recent they put interfaces in the language. Yeah. And that's the thing I like about GDScript too, is that they seem to be able to add these more sophisticated language features for people who want them, while keeping like this simplicity and ease of use for the people that don't want them, right? So I think, like, for example, the optional static typing is brilliant, right? Because then it's like, if you don't want to use typing, or you don't really understand type systems, or you don't want to deal with it, then you don't have to. But if you want to lock down your code a little bit more and you want to enforce static typing, you can also do that. And I'm assuming that will be the same for like the abstract classes and the traits and everything when that comes. Is like, those will be optional features that you can use if you want to, but they won't be required to making a Godot game, right? So I think that's nice. I actually really like GDScript. I think it's really fun to read and to write. It's just not quite, it just doesn't quite have the feature set that I would want to feel comfortable making a game like Alka Mortis. Okay, let's fix this one. Playtest notice may not be being shown. Get over there! Main menu. And game debug is playtest build, or game debug is demo. Do I not have is demo build? Okay. Public static read only bool is demo build equals os.has feature demo. Okay. So we could do this. Let's go to using one of my tips that I showed in my recent video. Let's put demo as one of the feature tags, and let's see if it works. And there we go. We got the playtest still, and we can just be extra sure that that is indeed working by going to customize run instances, remove the tags, and then I shouldn't see the playtest notice. Cool. All right. Editor or debug, customize run instances. Actually, you know what I should do is I should make sure that this playtest flag is not being used anywhere else. I don't think it is. No, it's not. Okay. Cool. Do I want to change anything in the playtest notice? Maybe I will, actually. No, it's fine. I don't need to change it. Okay, show playtest notice for demo build. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter because it's only going to be shown to Patreon members, but that's all right. Okay, let's run the tagger again. So node tool tagger.js. We're going to go to 0.19.12. Yes. Push all those. Those builds will get kicked off here. Okay. All right, so those builds are running. What else can we work on here? They actually added interfaces. I don't know. They're going to be adding traits. They're going to be adding traits. But I don't think that's not a thing yet. Finally, someone not vibe coding. I mean, don't get me wrong. I use Claude in certain situations, like when I need to do major refactors and I just need to change like 150 files. I also use Claude, like, so for example, I was stripping a bunch of language from all of my ability text. So there was this word, like every single ability almost said, oh, this affects allied items, but I wanted to change that to reduce the verbosity. And so going by hand and trying to identify all of the places in the code that need to have that allied word removed would have been possible. Obviously, I could just do a code search and like, but the problem is, you know, I've got variable names that have the word allied in it and stuff, and I'm only interested in strings that are generated for the translation system, right? So sicking Claude on that problem and just saying, hey, identify all of the source strings where the word allied is present and causing that to end up in the translation file, identify all those places, and then just go ahead and remove that for me. That is just like a huge time saver, and it's not like it's not doing any thinking for me. Like, I knew what I had to do. It was just going to be annoying to track all that down myself, right? The other thing that Claude is really good for too is, especially now that I have a playtest build in the hands of players, making a change and then telling Claude, hey, review this code for correctness, and also let me know if there are any unintended side effects created by this code. Sometimes Claude will catch things that I didn't catch myself and be like, hey, you didn't think about this case over here, so what do you want to do about it, right? Or it will say, nope, this change is purely safe. The logic is correct. There's nothing wrong with it. Ship it, right? So having it as like a code review companion is really nice as well. But yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to allow Claude to write your gameplay systems for you, because then you won't have an understanding of how the systems work. But using it as like a validator, as a rubber duck for discussing issues, or having it do those rote like tasks that you would just like spend an hour doing brainlessly, is really good. Do you know if there's a noticeable performance difference between C# and GDScript for larger projects? No, my understanding is that there's basically no performance difference between C# and GDScript when you're interacting with the Godot API. So the API round trip going from C# to invoking a C++ function and marshalling all the data to a variant type and then unmarshalling it back to a C# type, that whole round trip basically just like completely eliminates any C# performance gains you get. However, if you could keep certain systems purely within the C# layer, then yes, it's going to be much faster than GDScript. But in practice, you know, when you're building a game, you're going to be doing a lot of interaction with the Godot API. So I don't think that you should expect any noticeable performance gains on a typical C# project. It's just going to be those certain systems that can exist entirely in the C# layer. That's where you're going to see the performance gains, if there are any to be had. But other than that, no. Gotta go enjoy the stream. Thank you, Junie. It's a very healthy workflow. I am old school. I was against using AI, but I changed my mind. Code reviews and with Fable are so good. Yeah, the code like just having like a second set of eyes, so to speak, on something is always useful, whether it's like a human doing it or an LLM. It just gives you that extra level of validation. How about GC, garbage collection? Yeah, that can be a problem. My understanding is that with modern C#, it's not that big of a deal. And certainly with like a game like Alchemortis, where it's not a real-time game, so like even if there is like a frame stutter where like a frame gets dropped because of garbage collection, it's like it's not going to be that noticeable, and it doesn't affect the gameplay at all because it's not like Twitch reaction stuff, right? Hello, Mel's. But there are certain things that you should do when you're using GDScript or C# with Godot. Like, for example, whenever anything expects a string name, so like inputs is a great example. Well, let's just look at the escapable component. So in the input here, right, you want to check if an action is pressed and you want to pass in a name for that, right? This is asking for a string name. Now, this is actually an object that allocates memory. And the problem is you can do something like escape here, but what's happening is every single input event you get is going to create a new object that takes up memory because of this string. So that means every mouse motion event you get, every button press, like it's just going to be creating new string name objects every time this gets invoked, right? And so that can actually create a lot of garbage that then needs to be cleaned up. So what you need to do whenever you're using a string name or whenever something accepts a string name as an argument, and actually I wish they would change this so that strings cannot be automatically created as string names. Like, I think that this should be invalid. It should require that you explicitly create a string name, because that would just be an easy fix for that issue. But anyway, it's always a good idea to create some kind of long-lived reference to that string name. So you're only ever creating one reference, and it never gets garbage collected, basically, because it's always being used, right? So the easy way to do that is just, static read-only, whatever. Here's your string name, and then you use that for your string name references. Doesn't necessarily need to be in a constants file, like just whatever file is relevant. So like, audio helper, I've got the start random function. So that's just stored as a private static read-only start random. And then whenever I'm calling that function, because this is a GD script implementation, so I got to call it by method name. But yeah, that's the one thing where the garbage collection can get out of control if you're not careful. Something like C++ that wants you to declare it as a const char for strings, yeah. I mean, I'm not familiar with C++, but that sounds right to me. I don't like that. Why is that here? Do I continue? I mean, I guess it's fine. I don't know. I kind of want to fix it. Translation string, continue, group, translation groups, private const string, UI continue. Okay, let me put this here. Rebuild the translations. Well, I guess I put that in a different spot, but that's okay. I should probably do the same thing. I probably should just get rid of this en base file. Anyway, minor detail. Minor detail, but incremental improvements, All right, well, I do have a meeting that I want to get to in a couple minutes here. I've skipped the meetings for the past couple weeks because I was working on Alchemortis, but I think using magic number strings is just a bad idea in general, especially for if statements where spelling matters. Yeah. That's why I think that's one of the few places where I have a raw string, but I mean, the string is still up here, but putting it behind a constant and then also adding this translation string annotation or attribute, it's just a nicer way to do it. So again, the translations in the game they're a build artifact, essentially. So the source of truth for all of the strings in the game is basically the C# source code. And then I have a scene that builds the translation file. So it scans for the translation string attribute, but then it iterates over all the systems here. It iterates over all the systems and constructs the giant get text file, the PO file. And so what essentially happens is my translation file is a build artifact, which means that I have one source of truth for everything, which is really nice because I don't want to have to manually edit a translation file. I'd rather this source code be the source of truth for the translation strings. And the benefit of that too is that, let's say for whatever reason I needed to change the translation file format. Well, that would just be as simple as going in here and basically just changing how these strings get written to the output file, right? Because the collection of all the data is the same. And I would just need to change like what the shape of the output file is, right? And I could even support multiple different shapes, right? So I could say, okay, gather up all the data first, and then we construct the final PO file. We could also do like construct CSV, right? We could construct file for translators because they expect a slightly different approach. That's what I'm gonna have to do. But I could output like multiple artifacts that have basically all the same data with slightly different formats. So yeah, I definitely like this approach to the translation, as I'm gonna use that for future games for sure. But anyway, how does one join the playtest? So that's a good segue into the end of the stream. The playtest is only for Patreon members currently. So if you go to Patreon and you join at either tier, you will get a Steam key sent to your email address that you use with Patreon that has a Steam key. Now, before anyone says, what, you're charging for playtest access, this is just a perk for early playtest access that Patreon members have. Everyone will get to try the playtest for free at no charge starting a week from today. So on the 27th. So I want to stress this, you do not have to support on Patreon to get access to the playtest. This is just a nice little bonus for the people who are supporting. And I appreciate it, of course, but I don't want you to feel like you have to give money when you don't want to, right? Like, I want you to try the game. I only want you to give me your money if you're happy to do so, right? So that's that. But you can get access right now. You could just subscribe to the $3 a month tier and you'll get a Steam key, or you can wait for a week and you'll be able to play it for free. You could also wishlist Alka Mortis. The link for that is in the description below. When the playtest does go live for everyone, there will be a little button on the Steam page that says request access, and you'll just get instantly added to the playtest. So this is the place where you will join the playtest when it's available for everyone. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all of your support. Thank you for all the bug reports and feedback you've already sent. It's very much appreciated. And I'll probably do another stream later this afternoon to do some just playtesting of my own. So if you want to come hang out, that would be great. How many wishlists so far? I don't know if with me having a publisher now, I don't know if I'm supposed to be sharing that number. So maybe I can share it at a later date, but unfortunately, I just don't know if I should share it. Okay, anyway, thanks everyone. Have a good day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.